Now, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops is urging Congress to come up with real immigration reform. They add these migrants should be treated with dignity, love, and respect. And joining us now is Rodney Scott, former chief of the United States Border Patrol and senior fellow at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Rodney, thank you so much for coming on. It has been less than 24 hours since Title 42 has been lifted, and there's been a lot of concern of a huge rush of migrants at the border. But today, a top official with Homeland Security said that there was no major influx. I know that you're in El Paso, Texas right now. What have you seen?
Yeah, the reason there's no major influx, and they can say that honestly, is because there's just a mass migration every single day. Border Patrol for the last several days has been averaging around 10,000 encounters a day. The countless gotaways, because hundreds and hundreds of miles of border are completely unopened, and they're actually kind of metering who they take into the stations. I think if viewers need to understand, the only time the U.S. Border Patrol or even Customs and Border Protection actually counts an individual as an encounter is when they take them into custody. So if you look up along the border right now in San Diego, I was just talking to somebody this morning, there's thousands of people sitting on the ground in the United States between the fences that have not literally been encountered yet because they have not been taken into custody. And I've seen the same thing here in El Paso. It's a place called Gate 42, hundreds of aliens lined up, and they're just like waiting until the next bus comes to pick them up to take them in. It's total chaos. But I think everybody really needs to understand, this is really misplaced compassion. I agree, you have to have compassion for human beings, but this draw, which is all created by catch and release, is encouraging people from around the world to put their lives at risk for a lie. 9 out of 10 will never meet the asylum criteria. They're not going to make it into the United States, but unfortunately, the catch and release that this administration has created allows them to think they're free in the United States with that MTA, and it just sends a horrible message. And then again, it's a national security risk, because when those Border Patrol agents are tied down with the migrants, the criminals, anybody that doesn't want to meet a law enforcement officer is sneaking around them, to include the cartels and all their narcotics.
Yeah, U.S. Customs and Border Protection in Texas, I mean, they're pretty fired up down there about what they're seeing at the border in the Lone Star State, tweeting in part, "Our border is on fire," and they throw more gas on that fire with everything they do. That's in reference to the Biden administration. Pretty strong words there. Rodney, do you agree with that?
I really do agree with that. There's a lot of attention on Title 42 today, and I would argue it's a little bit of a distraction in and of itself. The only reason we're talking about Title 42 is because on January 21st, 2021, President Biden signed several executive orders that completely destroyed border security that had been built up over three decades, not just during the Trump administration. When he took away the Remain in Mexico programs, when he tore down the asylum agreements we had with other countries that we were working on with even more, and when he stopped the border wall infrastructure that included a ton of technology that they don't want to talk about that also got shut off, not only did that demoralize the Border Patrol, that literally tore down a bunch of the tools that they had. And then this administration basically sent messages globally that said, you're invited to the United States, as they systematically created groups of people that they chose to not be subject to Title 42 or Title 8. Title 8 has been there forever. They could be using those tools that they keep talking about today. The expedited removal has been there forever. The 5-year ban has been there forever. It's smoke and mirrors. This is really intentional. They campaigned on an open border. They knew what they were doing. Mayorkas has got a lot of experience in DHS, and I'm not going to get into the why, because I don't want to try to get into their heads. But this is intentional, and the reason they're not stopping it is because they don't want to stop it.
We have about a minute or so left, but I want to touch on this. I mean, we're focusing on the southern border, but we also have a northern border as well. Talk to us about that and the concerns up there.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, Tracy. Everybody, and I even did it right now, everybody gets distracted and they talk about the immigration, but anything that crosses our border, the economic engine of this country now is trade, global trade and travel. All of that is dismantled when you have a mass migration like this, and it is the northern border, and it's also the both coasts. So resources have been pulled away from the northern border, they've been pulled away from the coastal borders, and they've been pulled away from enforcement missions. And really, almost all Border Patrol is doing now, and even a lot of the Customs and Border Protection officers, is providing food, services, and processing people, because each one of these individuals takes about an hour to process. So just start looking at those numbers that you're seeing and do the math. There aren't agents out in the field. The threats on the northern border have increased. We've given the cartels on the southwest border complete and total control over who and what comes into our country. And this is going to continue to slow down the economic recovery that we were doing, because we're not going to be able to facilitate trade and travel like we should, because even those officers have been redirected to this mass migration, which is, again, it's false compassion. They're trying to flee economics or places they don't like, but it does not meet the definition of political asylum, and their asylum claims will be denied, but they'll already be loose in the United States by then.
Rodney, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. We really appreciate your insights.
Thank you, Tracy. Have a great afternoon.
You as well. God bless.